The prison environment is really a unique environment. And the impetus to actually get through it still has to come from the individual. And it's almost to me as if someone can actually complete a course of study while in prison, it's worth 10 times more than someone on the outside, because it really is such an incredible challenge. The prison culture it dominates. People have to somehow find their study time. Prison core programs will be prioritised. Students studying in our entry program can be taken out of our program at almost no notice to attend a core program, and that could be when all the assessments due. You know, so it's a real challenge. It's particularly challenging for them.
One of the papers was on a research methodology appropriate for Indigenous cultural research, and I guess while ours is not a formalised approach, I guess ours mirrors that practice.
Yes.
Of providing the students with a voice. The students don't necessarily have a voice, whether they're in prison or not, in some cases. And in our case, the overriding or the underlying process that we used was to make those prisoners, or to give those prisoners a voice, a space to do that, to tell their stories.
And that was an incredible challenge, because it's not easy to do research in a prison. The protocols and the ethical clearance is extensive, because we have the universities process and we have the corrective services process. Even though we were already going in as teachers, we had to virtually start again as researchers, and it took 12 months to actually get in there. But and that really drove us, the student voice, because we had mentioned that we might be doing some research, and the students couldn't wait to talk to us. And we just thought, well, okay, this is taking so long, but we won't give up, because these students have the right to have their voice heard. A researcher from the UK was very interested in our research. She was looking at bringing education into a prison. She was actually a criminologist, I think, and she was looking at possibly doing some sort of exchange, or she wanted to come out here for a while, or we go there to see what we do, see how we can share, learn from each other.
Yeah, she wasn't particularly looking at Indigenous or particular ethnic groups in UK, but just how did we implement education in a prison situation, and what are the challenges we've met, that kind of stuff.
It's a collaborative research project with Griffith University and James Cook University, and we are going out to collect the data in this region for the project. It's looking at decision-making capacity, and for the public advocate there's a definition in the legislation for when decision-making is impaired, and they've discovered that Indigenous people don't fit into that definition. So we've got to revisit the way Indigenous Queenslanders are assessed with having impaired decision-making capacity. Nothing can be isolated, everything's interconnected. So of course you'll have people with impaired decision-making capacity in prisons, and maybe they're in prisons because of that. And then how do we define that? It's a huge area. We suspect that we're going to uncover lots of areas that will need further research.
The first step is to ask the question, how do Indigenous families and communities make decisions on behalf of members of their family and communities who are adults, who are 18 years and above? So that's really the target. Our first step, our pilot study, is to look at how people make decisions in such instances, and from there then look at a definition for what is impaired decision-making capacity and what the legislation can then do to figure out a way to help people make decisions in a more formalised structure.
I think today was important to give Nulloo the opportunity to come out and say to the university and to the community, this is what we do, as well as all the other things we do. I think there's a perception that we merely assist students with their learning. So it was an opportunity for lots of other people to come and hear and see what we do. For me, it was a grounding experience, I think. It forces me to stop and reflect on how everything is interconnected, and how we still need to be very, very careful about how we do our research, particularly with Indigenous people, how we need to be very, very mindful of the sort of model that Cherie and Denise advanced, and we pretty much use that, a version of that model anyway. But it just reminded me how important it is, because I'm always dealing with it. I tend to, I guess, forget just how vital it is. And I hope that some other researchers who came to the presentations will take that away with them as well, whether it's researching with Indigenous people or not. Those vital things like valuing the voice and really hearing the voice, all the way back to Rosalind's welcome with deep listening. They're all connected, and all the issues that influence whether someone's going to be incarcerated or not, all those things are interlinked with the whole thing as well. So it was a very holistic experience for me.
The research showcase is exactly that. It's a forum to present the breadth of research that Nulloo actually does, which is one of the things that Nulloo has previously seen, and its role has been specifically student support. But we are a research and a teaching centre as well. So and I keep saying we because
we've adopted you.
I still feel part of the group.
You are part of us, that's fine.
But it's a presentation that, as Vicki said, we need to make to the wider university and external communities, so that then, like the impaired capacity, impaired decision-making research, other organisations can see, well, think about Nulloo as a place to get this kind of stuff, information found, and to also understand that we have a research model, for example, a methodology that underpins the way we do business, so that the Indigenous voice is presented and is provided as centre stage, rather than, and I hate to say it, but a typical Western methodology, which might put the voice somewhat distant to the research provision. So I think it's very important to us to just be to also be part of the research community within the university.